is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off.
So we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. Pretty slow news-wise. What's been going on, guys?
Dude, there's so much dust on my mic.
I've been trying to get fit like Lyle. I've been running about, 15 miles a week. I'm still fat and I'm still slow.
Fuck stud.
SoFatStillSlow.com/my life.
Dude, you don't even know. I try and it's pathetic. It's really pathetic, but I do
Get no blows, man. Bridget was like, man, your grades are really coming in. This COVID ain't been kind. I'm like, thanks. Cool.
I have a hard time. It's all mental. Every bit of it's mental. I have a hard time with the dog and I'm trying to run.
Yeah.
I have to I have to see it, envision it, and try to do it. And it's stupid. It's an initial step. It's just fucking walking, that extra kick in your step, to start a jog. And I can't do it. It's stupid. It's like cliff jumping when you stand over the cliff for too long and try to jump and you can't.
You just can't get it going, huh?
That's for some reason my lower half is that way. I have no idea why. It's fucked.
As long as your middle isn't that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Know what I'm saying? Standing at the edge of that cliff for too long. It's like, you know what? We tried. Fucking tried.
I wish I could jog because it's about the only thing that I really know how to do that, not in the gym besides just push-ups and shit like that. But my feet are all fucked up from when I did used to jog, and then I wore bad shoes, and a bunch of combinations of factors gave me plantar fasciitis. So jogging right now, I don't think is a real option for me. At least not seriously. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I've never enjoyed jogging, and I don't have a body for it. That's what I've determined because it like I always describe it the same way. It feels like the bolts that are holding me together are rattling loose. I don't know what it is. It just.
It rattles your whole body. It does
Yeah. Well, some people just do it with grace. I feel like I look like I'm trying to stomp a single file line of mice for about 5 miles.
I know that. So I was taking pictures down at the loop trail, and I heard this loud explosions, just this boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what the fuck? And I turned around at some jogger. He's probably about a little bigger than you.
That could be me.
190, but he was slapping those bottom of his.
Yeah, that's what I sound like running because I got too much change in my pockets.
Here he comes. Hey, Rod.
Because I'm jogging in cords.
Is that a martini that I hear?
Yeah, second one since I got up from my nap.
You're having a good Saturday. I just lit up a Monte Cristo cigar. And we're going to talk about, I guess, the craziness going on in the world. I'm trying to get this. I'm recording video of this. It's just my head at the moment, but I want it to be this live feed. That it seems like they're having a hard time getting it going today. I've been following this guy. Well, everyone's been following this guy. This is the footage you're seeing more often than not. Okay, it looks like he started it again. So if you go to his... Facebook page, I sent a link in the now it looks like it might be up and running. Oh no, it keeps crashing out. So they got a whole new setup today. Anyway, this is where they seems like it might be working now. So I'm gonna shrink my head here, pull up this video. It's not important that you guys have it up. It's just I've been keeping an eye on the protest. I don't know, I got a feeling that tonight could be a little crazier than it's been.
Little Saturday night.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be interesting here in Wenatchee because this is a scheduled protest, and it starts in about 15 minutes, or maybe it started at 4. And we've had some weirdness here in town. I want to talk about that, too, before we get on to the grand scheme of things. And I'm not necessarily worried about anything getting too crazy in Wenatchee, except for the giant trucks that just went flying by with huge Trump flags in the back. I feel like, I don't know. Not that I'm worried about them being violent or dangerous necessarily, but, what are you protesting if you're going to be showing up with that. Odds are, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are showing up to walk alongside the protesters. I think
God.
maybe I'm being a bit too
Yeah, my
optimistic.
sweet summer child. Yeah.
Well,
But-
what I've been seeing on my feeds is that there tend to be in certain places just the Trump fan NRA people just kind of standing around with their assault rifles, not really doing anything, but just standing around, like probably to protect against, I'm air quoting furiously here, Antifa.
Yeah.
They're being vigilant.
But they're not really doing anything, you know what I mean? So, hopefully that's a thing that, stays that way.
Sure. Yeah, and I got no problem with. I mean, they have every much as right of a right to show up and make their statement. My question is, what is that statement? We shall see.
Exactly.
Ultimately, there's been some strange displays of people just protesting against the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's like, if you want to support it, great, and if you don't want to support it, that's fine. But I'm puzzled at railing against it. Now the rioting is to me, the rioting and the looting is almost a separate discussion. And from what I've seen, and I've been watching this shit every night for hours because it's been fucking gripping. I feel like that has, by and large, fallen by the wayside. I feel like that was like the initial explosion of anger and rage, and I don't ever like watching that. I'm not going to really comment on it beyond that because I can't possibly relate to that kind of deeply ingrained rage that is sort of in your DNA because of how you have come to be in this country, period, historically. But now that that's waning, this thing is so fucking huge. I believe, I don't know if this is true, but I keep hearing that it is by far at this point the biggest civil rights movement in the history of the country, and it may be approaching the history of the world in modern times anyway, because this is an international movement. The streets of Paris are choked up, and by the way, there's really so much to talk to. Puff on my cigar here. Could you ever have predicted the last time we talked? We were like, I don't know. I think June is off. I think June is out. Looks like we probably won't get crawling back until mid-July. The streets were like Mars, son. There was nobody. In L.A., the streets were empty. In New York, the streets were empty. Las Vegas, the entire city was dark. All around the world, overnight, to going to the biggest crowds we've had on the streets in history. What a fucking bizarre turn of events. In and of itself, that is.
And what's it going to mean for us in 2 fucking weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's too. A lot of people are coming forward saying that they got sick because of the protests. They went to a protest and they got sick.
Well, they wouldn't know that yet.
It takes 7 to 14 days.
It couldn't really. Maybe a couple of
If
cases.
people are getting sick now, it's because they went to fucking goddamn Lake Tahoe or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah,
or
they've
all jumping in the
Green
water with
brick,
each other.
bitch.
Or they've been in stage 2, like a lot of places are, phase 2. I mean, again, BLM movement aside, I don't like it when it's said that way because it's one letter extra from bowel movement.
Right.
But it's like, well, here we go, right? I mean, like, we've been talking about herd immunity all this time. Now's our chance to find out. You can love it or hate it. It's done. It's happened. Even if everyone went back to shelter in place and really quarantining, which we never really were quarantined to begin with, but we were doing a pretty good go of it. If you went back tomorrow, back to Ghostland Street, it's not going to make a fucking difference. It's out. So on top of, a lot of people are wearing masks, but a lot of people are also getting fucking gassed and maced, which, as it turns out, can cause coughing. And these people are back to back to back in some of these crowded streets and yelling. And it's just, we know this thing is spreading like crazy right now. The question is it going to start killing a bunch of people? Go ahead.
All I have to do is look at the video of people when they talk. And for some fucking stupid reason, everybody does it. When you're on camera and you're talking to the camera, the first thing they do is pull down their fucking mask.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the first thing they do.
Well, some masks absolutely do muffle
Oh, for
your
sure.
sound and make it hard to hear. So I get that, but yeah, you're right. At the same time, it's like, well, that makes a practical sense on one hand. I want to talk about something local again real quick, and I am going to keep monitoring the scanner. I'm trying to keep it fairly low, but I feel like there's so much going on right now, and I can't get these live feeds. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They were going to be a backdrop unless something crazy happened anyway. But I'll keep refreshing those. Maybe this just won't end up being interesting from a video standpoint. But so there's a local gas station, convenience store / auto detailing place. I won't name it, but they
One-stop shopping.
Yeah, and they post. Well, that's kind of part of the story too. They posted yesterday, with all this going on and leading up to this big protest, which has already gotten a lot of people on edge. You know, this is Mayberry. I mean, Wenatchee is predominantly white. The Hispanics are catching up. You know, we have a very, very healthy Hispanic population here, so there is some diversity. It's not all white, but the black population, I think you could probably count on maybe two and a half hands. So this is one of those towns where there's a lot of like true ignorance. You know, that word, it's a bad word because no one wants to be called ignorant, but it's kind of like privilege. Like no one wants to be called privileged. That just seems smarmy and insulting, and it implies something that, well, you know how you were brought up, you know what opportunities you were given, and even if you can acknowledge it, it's just the word. You know, it's not a good. We need a better word. But
yeah, I'm totally over that. It's just the truth. You know, I've totally accepted that, and it is what it is, whatever the word is. You know.
Yeah, whatever the word is. But I think a lot of people are hesitant to accept whatever it is because the word sucks. No one wants to be called it, just like ignorant.
Well, I was thinking about this just the other day. You know, growing up here in Wenatchee, like I said, like you said, like it is very, you know,
Yeah, especially when we were growing up. Yeah.
We're fairly way back in the time in that sense. But like when we were kids, I remember that we used to. It was more like the greaser age. It was like you had jocks and preps.
Yeah,
you know,
it was very
athletic.
compartmentalized.
And then you had people that were rich versus people that were poor and impoverished, and they would fight. It wasn't race. It had nothing to do with skin of color. It was literally poverty level.
Yeah.
And we used to get rumbles back in the day. I was in a
don't you
few.
kind of miss rumbles?
Dude, if you believe it or not,
A safe way to fight.
Yeah.
We would do that. We would get like groups of people and basically fucking battle. You know, and beat shit out of
and
each other.
oftentimes make friends along the way on either side of the dial. It's like, you really kicked me in the nads, son. That's below the belt. Good on you.
So it was different for us. You know, I think John Mark's probably got the most like knowledge of growing up and diverse, you know, because he was out of country growing up.
Was there white racism where you grew up at all, John Mark? Like, were you, because you were the minority there. Did you ever get shit?
I don't know if I would call it that, but there was, you know, I definitely had some experiences which, you know, helped me to appreciate all of that.
Being a minority.
Better. Yeah. So, I don't think that there was really. I wouldn't say that I saw much overt, like, you know, fuck you, you know, American, get the hell out of here. But, you know, a little bit of that here and there, but not really, you know, anything, you know, like that. It was mostly it would be just like, because, you know, most of those people had never seen somebody that wasn't from there before. You know what I mean? So it was just like, what the fuck are you? Like, I was literally an alien. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really weird thing for me to sort of get my head around when I was 6 years old, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it really helped inform my understanding of just people, you know, like in that we're all, you know, we're all the same, you know, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I think without those experiences, I mean, who knows, you know, what my attitudes would be about certain things.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because this business posted, I believe it was yesterday, that 2 cars had pulled up, and they were all, I don't know if they were all males, but they were all black. And they said between 10 and 12 black people pulled up and got out as if they're going to start pumping some gas. But instead, they start spilling the gas all over, or pumping the gas on the ground, and they start pumping a whole bunch in one of the garbage cans. And the one employee that was there saw this happening and ran out and chased them off. And so they posted on Facebook that this happened. They're like, be aware, this just happened to us. And a lot of people are like, holy shit, what the fuck is that about? But then people start asking questions like, what, do you have video of it? I mean, show us video, we'll get the word out. And they didn't respond. And then finally they responded to one guy asking that, and they're like, no. Like, wait, no, period? It was even uncapitalized. It was just, no. For some reason I found that significant that it was uncapitalized. I definitely found it significant that there was no further explanation. Not, no, the system was down, or it was rebooting, or we turned our cameras off, which, by the way, no one ever turns their camera. We don't turn our cameras off to our cat cams in our living rooms. I guarantee you that and this is a nice operation, it's a fairly new establishment. It's a fucking convenience store and a gas station. There are cameras pointing every which where. Nothing. They had nothing. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but people were starting to question on the initial post. And then somebody said, do you have a police report? Because I want to call the cops and get more information. We can post, talk about the license plate. They didn't give out any information, but the owner or the employee who posted initially said, well, we got the license plate and we gave it to the cops, and they said it was registered to somebody in Seattle, but it could be stolen. That's what they said. And then they said, well, but the girl, or there was a girl, the girl who was driving paid with a credit card. So they had that on file. I was like, well, that's a home run. But then they're like, but it could be stolen. Again, all true things.
Dude.
But the real, the thing that kind of met it on the other side was people called the police. And it was hours and hours after this initial post where the original poster got on and said, look, I can't believe you guys don't believe me, but call the cops and ask for Officer so-and-so. So some people did. And Officer so-and-so said, yeah, we went out there and we couldn't find any evidence that happened at all, according to the people that posted in this comment thread.
Definitely tell if there's a can full of gas, dude.
Anyone who has spilled a little bit of gas on the dirt when they're gassing up their mower knows how long that spot lingers. And by the way, if it's a large spill, you are required by law to get some sort of like hazmat cleanup.
Definitely.
That's like what am I trying to say?
Biohazard.
Like an environmental requirement by these places. And the cop went out there. There was no sign of that. No gas on the ground. No gas in the garbage can. Now, again, I'm going to stop shy of saying that they made this up, but there's a lot that doesn't add up there.
Oh, I'll flat out say they fucking did.
Well,
I have no problem saying they did.
Well, a handful of people are, but the real point is that even after that dialogue got going, that post has now, last I checked, this was this morning, that post has been shared almost 1,600 times. So for Wenatchee, that's a lot of views. And it's like, okay, and so I started scrolling down and clicking on these posts, that people were sharing and seeing what the other comments were. Almost 99% was like, yeah, this is what I knew was going to happen. Or somebody like, well, I'm loading up my guns and patrolling the streets of Wenatchee to keep it safe tonight. Or people warning, like, stand guard in front of your business or your homes.
And that's exactly why they made that story up, dude. They're trying to start some shit.
God, where have I seen this behavior before? God, where have I seen this on a daily basis from somebody in power?
Yeah, and so it really was not eye-opening, but it was bothersome. Yeah, it was just like, I don't like this, and that set the tone. that's a huge, again, that's a huge amount of people that saw that leading into this protest tonight. And then when I saw those trucks going by, again, all of these things in and of themselves are not that big of a deal, but culminating together in what's supposed to be like one of our biggest protests of all time. And it looked like we already had a record protest. Leavenworth just did one. They had like 1,300 people protesting up there. That's more people than live in Leavenworth. So this whole thing is, really gaining steam. But I've only been watching live footage from bigger cities where the attitude is a little different. Not that they're not getting hesitation or pushback, and not just from the cops. They're getting counter protesters and people mocking it all over the country, acting like these people should get a job and not be speaking their piece on it. But this is the first time that I've seen it like starting to grow in my neck of the woods, and it's really been intriguing. So we shall see. That's why I've got the police scanner on tonight, and I'm just curious. We also have graduation going on this weekend, so the kids that are graduating are doing like a parade, like a walking parade, all through town, as is the Black Lives Matter march. So it's like that's kind of an unfortunate and weird, potentially great coinciding of things. So I just wanted to keep that going, and I thought that these feeds would be rocking and rolling because they just updated these. These are the ones I've been watching all week. And this is the ones that even international media is picking up. They're like that's why they upgraded their stuff today, I'm sure. But whatever they did differently, I feel like they might have tried to set up their own server, because now they got 6 high-def cams going. That takes a beef. That takes a beefy little power plant.
Indeed it does.
That takes a beef. Looks like he's taking a beef all over the fucking feed right now, unfortunately. I'll find another one here in a bit, but... anyway, I thought that was worth mentioning heading into this discussion, and we can kind of go wherever you guys want at this point.
Well, I tread on it very lightly, but when we were talking about like the whole growing up in poverty and whatnot, and that it has nothing to do with racism. It's pretty much to do with the way what you have. I watched a lot of videos with people that, like you were saying, gun activists that were literally blocking off their roads home in Los Angeles to the heights. They were like blocked off, civilians with their AR-15s blocking off from people going up to loot their houses.
Mm-hmm.
A looting thing. I mean, it seems to me like it's like a perfect storm, right? You're forced home. You're stuck in your house for months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, today was the first time I went and bought shoes in like 2 years. That felt like a privilege, to go into the store, buy a pair of fucking shoes, and to be not working. Like, because it falls on 2 levels. You got 2 people. You got people that have money set aside, that they don't care. They could live 5 or 6, 7, maybe a year, without working, that have money set aside. And then people that live check to check, so you have those people that live check to check, and they're not getting their check, so they've got that huge influx. And then when it's, we watched all the time with Seattle, like May Day parades, there's always rioters and looters, and it's just like a gasoline to the fire,
Yeah, well, the coming right off of the shut-in was something that I actually reached out to you guys about the other night, and I'd like to elaborate on that, because and I don't want to take away from the movement in any way, but to me, it's impossible to not think that this, I can't imagine this being this huge of a movement without coinciding with coming right after 3 months of being cooped up. Like Lyle said, that definitely could have fed into the looting and some of that rage, maybe a little bit more than it already would have. I think that rage was going to spill out no matter what. But the fact that that so many people are getting involved with this, I feel like probably is benefiting from us being stuck, and we're like ready for any kind of social activity at all. And again, I don't mean to make that sound like I'm taking away from the power of the movement and people's motivations. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just going out to have a good time. I'm sure some of them are just getting out of the fucking house, but it is a perfect storm. Yeah,
this has definitely, obviously, been a long time coming, and every element that was needed for something like this to happen right now is there.
Yeah.
And so that's here we are.
But it's crazy how it all happened at the same time, right? Like these things all happened, and it's so funny how the voices of dissent during the coronavirus, like when you flip the script, they're about tyranny and don't tread on me type stuff. Now all of a sudden, a lot of those voices are not supporting an uprising against tyranny. It's like we miss every goddamn opportunity of getting together at any time. You know what I mean? It's like there are things that we line up on and we just high-five each other with middle fingers as we switch. We just kind of keep going back and forth. It's like, a lot of these guys that were protesting the virus, of all things, protesting a virus, or at least how the viruses were being handled by the government, standing around with guns and protesting that, are now, sort of mocking these people for protesting their own experience with what they consider to be tyranny.
Yeah, and kind of interesting that none of them got tear gassed or rubber bulleted either, huh?
Yeah, it's hard to ignore that. It's hard to watch a whole bunch of whiteys with fucking, I call them the Taco Bell bandits. They just all look like they love themselves some Taco Bell. Just a bunch of fat white dudes with a lot of guns hanging out in front of the fucking government buildings. Just standing around, maybe with a few rebel flags here and there and fully loaded weapons. Yeah, nothing doing. And meanwhile, young girls are getting maced in the face. That fucking video of the old man getting shoved down.
Oh man,
is maybe.
I would have went up that. I think if I would have seen that up close, I would have probably went to jail too.
I feel that way about so many things. It's like, man, if I saw that in front of me, I don't know how I'd act, but maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would ultimately let fear or remembering how things went when I dealt with a 12-year-old who was trying to steal my hat. Maybe I'm not so tough on them there streets.
Stay down, old man.
I'm only up to 19 push-ups a day. I don't think I'm ready yet for a rematch. But any day now.
I've been thinking a lot about how for the longest time I thought that 9/11 was going to be our generation's moment, like that thing. You know what I mean? That
yeah.
And then the coronavirus happened. I was like, holy shit, maybe it's coronavirus. And then like fucking this on top of that.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit.
We've had some moments.
I say it like it's a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing that's happening. It's just scary. All of it's so like, wow.
Yeah,
like, is it gonna stick? I mean, what's gonna happen next? Like, is it gonna make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it kind of goes out of sight, out of mind. This is nothing new. You know what I mean? We grew up with Rodney King, getting beat down by the cops, and it's the same exact thing happened.
Well, yeah.
So this is not the same exact thing though at all.
So much bigger though.
Black violence and police officers. Let's say that, right? We lived to. We're watching that mini doc that you made us watch, which was hush hush information.
Yeah.
But like. That made me realize that because it's like I remember I sat through all 4 episodes, powered through it, and as I was watching it was like I remember that. Yeah. I lived through that. I was there. I remember watching it on the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it brings you full circle on what's important because now that we're older, it means a lot more.
Well, you're right that it has been in many ways out of sight, out of mind. This comes up on the show from time to time. One of our best and worst traits as a human species is our ability to sort of forgive and forget and move forward. But the flip side to that coin, the negative flip side, is that we tend to not hold on to a lot of those lessons, and we do go back to complacency. I do feel like this is different in, I mean, it's definitely different just in terms of numbers. Those other places that were rioting, we would get caught up on that on the evening news because it was happening somewhere else. I mean, occasionally it would be going on, like there'd be some residuals going on in Seattle and New York, but the core of the Rodney King shit was focused on LA. That's where that shit was happening.
Yeah, and we didn't have internet back then, dude. That was just literally what the news thought you should see. You know what I mean? Man, if you had internet back then, if we had internet back then, it would be a whole mind-changing thing, and I guarantee you, it would have been explosive, just the same way this is.
Yeah. One of the things I've really been enjoying is watching celebrities react to things, like the ones that are outspoken. I don't know if you happen to see the Seth Rogen Twitter thing.
Well, he's just telling everyone to fuck off.
Pretty much. He put up like a Black Lives Matter, thing, and all these fuckers start saying all lives matter to him, and almost every single one he'd be like, "Get fucked, get fucked, get fucked. You don't deserve my movies. Get fucked."
Yeah. I fell into that. I honestly, I could admit that I fell into that. Because people would say Black Lives Matter, and really all lives matter. It doesn't matter the race of your skin. And I heard it put this way, and it kind of made sense. Is like you go to the doctor, right? And you have a broken arm, and you go to the doctor, and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm here to see you about my broken arm." And he goes, "Well, okay." And he goes down and he takes off your shoe and he starts fucking with your ankle and going, "No, your ankle seems fine." But you're like, "No, I'm here because of my broken ankle or my broken arm." It's different because it is different. You know what I mean? And it's hard to see that.
The reason that is so dismissive of the movement is that it's like you're basically saying, well, there's no problem here, so let's keep on going, easy peasy, as opposed to acknowledging that there is a huge portion of the people that are experiencing something collectively, and they're trying to tell you about it, and they're trying to show you, and they're trying to fucking change it. And I love how this keeps going back in so many memes and so many interviews. It keeps going back to these peaceful protests, and we're all Seahawks fans here, if we're following football at all, and so we had a sort of a disdain for Kaepernick for just being a 49er.
It's a rival. I loved what he did with the kneeling. I thought it was. I fucking hated the way the NFL responded to that, and the fans. I thought it was fucking terrible.
Well, it was.
I think we all probably.
I think that a lot of people were hesitant about that at first, simply from what the fuck's this guy doing now to get attention? Then when it was clear what it was doing, that's where it really started to polarize people. And then other people got on board, and a lot of people said, well, fuck that, I'm never watching football again. It's like, okay, and it's fair to be offended by what they're doing. It's fair. But that's a peaceful and very passive sort of protest. And then, marching on some bridge or some highway, and there's no way around it. That fucks up daily life. And people can die if they can't get to the fucking hospital in time in their ambulance trip. It fucks things up. But it's a step towards something, and it's just like, no, we don't want that. And so it's like all these things that people have tried to do to let people know this is what we're experiencing, and we're trying to fucking change it. That is when you just it's that powder keg that's ready to go, and you're like, motherfuckers, you can't keep telling us no, like you can't. And then when we finally get together, and like I said, there's that initial outburst, and I feel like there will probably be more, but I don't think it'll be as widespread as it was initially. The rioting and the looting and all that. Because look at all the people that are marching and protesting. Sure. This shit could go chaotic and violent any second. But everything that I've been following, it's the fucking cops that keep like they're just fucking aggressive. And this is the point. Like, look at that video. That's a white man. That's an old white man. So it doesn't have anything to do with race. But you know what I like about the Black Lives
in Seattle, dude, that got maced, like the little 6-year-old man.
Yeah, what I like about the Black Lives Matters movement is that they've put out this sort of like quote unquote our list of demands, if you will, and They're like 4 or 5 things, and none of them even mentioned race. It's, we want better police monitoring, better police training and de-escalating. We want more accountability for cops that fuck up. We want, it's all about just, it's
really reasonable
humanitarian shit.
Yeah.
There's nothing about like, we're black, so we should get this. It's not that thing at all. And so I think a lot of people are sort of pooling it in with their own experiences, whether it's me growing up in little small town Mayberry and getting fucked with by the cops, and them calling me a skater fag. And in 2 different situations, they stole my skateboard. Like, they just straight up took my fucking skateboard. And when I tried to go get it back, they all just fucking laughed at me. That happened. And I think every town has their experiences with some sort of, it is this inherent systematic thing where they are allowed to be aggressive. And
too.
What's that?
It kind of stems as a bully factor. You see it a lot in the military. You see a lot in the law enforcement. So it's a bully factor.
But at least the military has real fucking training. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I would feel better about the military prowling the streets than the cops at this point. Yeah, could change my mind if that happens. But I want to go back to the old man being pushed down, because there's like this built-in thing that happened. Well, it wasn't built-in, but it's proof of the systemic idea and the systemic sort of mentality that a lot of these good old boys have. So those 2 officers that shoved that old man down, and he cracked his head so hard on the concrete that it made a snap sound, and he hemorrhaged out of his fucking ears. He's lucky he didn't die. Those cops are fucking lucky he didn't die. But they did I think they got fired, or they definitely got suspended.
Yeah, but then you know what happened after that?
Yeah, like, that's my point. It was like 50 or 60 of his fellow officers quit.
The entire staff, yeah.
In support of the officers that pushed him down.
Well, guess what, though? They only resigned from their special fucking unit. They're still employed by the department. They didn't quit their jobs.
Oh,
right.
Interesting.
But the point is, they were protesting.
Fuck them.
They were protesting, but the whole thing was not to support. It was not to show their outrage over that old man getting hurt. It was to show their support of the officers that pushed the old man down. So they were banding together saying, no, what those cops did was correct.
It's a brotherhood.
That's the exact fucking thing. It's this and this is the bullshit that has to be dismantled. You cannot have true progress on police brutality.
Right, it's not us against them. Like, they see us as the enemy, and it's like, that's just, like, you can't have that.
And above everything else, above all else, the brotherhood must remain intact. So if you go down, we all go down. That is such a stupid premise. That is that's the antithesis of doing the right thing, because you don't have to look at the thing at all. You're just like, where'd my brothers go? What are my brothers doing? Yep, I'm behind them. That's blind allegiance.
Have these guys made a statement that's public yet or anything? Because I just
Fuck
can't
you.
imagine. Yeah.
And a statement. I'm being
He was old man was an agitator.
Wasn't he just trying to return a helmet that I don't know, maybe there's more to the story, but I don't care what the details of that story are. He was an unarmed old man, and they just shoved him down so hard that he hemorrhaged out his head, and their response to that was the whole group just kept on walking. It reminds me of that shooting. This was another it wasn't a black victim, but it was a story that made its rounds a few years ago. That kid, it was in an Arizona hotel, and he was drunk, and he was on his hands and knees, like begging not to be shot.
Oh, in the hallway, yeah.
And then they shot him dead. Their response, I don't know if you've seen that video. It's fucking troubling. But the second he drops, I mean, he's on his knees, so it's just like, and they got high-powered rifles, so it's just like, he sort of reached back because his pants were falling off. You could see him kind of reaching back, and they just lit him up. That was it.
Like rapid fire.
Yeah. He had no weapon. He didn't have anything on him. They just shot him. But their response, well, hang on. Their response to that was not, oh shit. It was just like, all right, next. And they kept on moving to the fucking hotel room. You can see this all on YouTube. I do recommend it, even though it's troubling. And I recommend watching as much of this shit as you can, because it's troubling. It's hard to watch, and it's maddening, and it's not comfortable. But the point of all of this isn't to be comfortable, and it's not to be calm and cool and collect and feeling good about things. We should all be feeling pretty on edge. Like Christopher said, it's a good thing, but it's scary, and that's correct. It's correct to be scared right now because a hard wind is falling upon us all. But I gotta say, overall, I'm happy to see the mood of everything going on, and I'm super happy to see so many non-blacks involved with it, because I think that in and of itself is taking some of this division steam off of it, concerning race. And it is kind of, it'll never fully become, but it's kind of becoming more about us versus them in terms of like citizens versus cops. And the other thing that blows me away is like, okay, all of these cops right now in the entire country, they know the entire world is watching and streaming and recording, and this is still how they're acting. What do you think is going on in like black dark alleys in some of these rougher streets? What do you think is going on there?
In good old Brock Turner alleys?
Yeah. If you're going to see this shit, if this is what they do, knowing everyone's watching and accusing them of brutality and being bullies, like Lyle said.
There was, do you guys follow Casey Neistat? He's a YouTuber. He posted a video about white privilege, but it was more kind of on the lines of everything that was going on in L.A. and because he moved from New York to L.A. And he was telling the story. It was about a nurse, and she was and I can't remember what city it was. It might have been in New York, but they have a no knock policy, right? So this nurse is in bed and asleep because like I'm kind of telling the story, but like you should go watch it. That's
Brianna.
No, I think it was in New York. It's the nurse, and there's a no knock policy, so the cops could just bust into your house or your apartment. And she's in bed and she's sleeping, and her husband like woke up, freaked out because he heard the door bust open. So he reached for a gun, and he was shot to death.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh.
And
she died too.
And it was by four fucking men that broke into the house. They're in street clothes. They bust into the fucking front door, go upstairs. They see him. The guy has a gun, so the four intruders shoot him, and then shoot her. They both die, and they were cops. They had a no knock warrant.
Wrong house, right?
No. They thought that she had drugs because she works as a nurse.
Yeah, I think there's two stories that I'm confusing. The Breonna Taylor one was Louisiana, but go ahead, Lyle.
They searched the house and didn't find any narcotics at all. You know, so there's two people that died for no reason, you know, just because you could knock on the fucking door and say, hey, we got a search warrant.
Louisville, Kentucky. Well, it's a very similar story to the Breonna Taylor thing, except they shot her, and her boyfriend. It was a similar thing where they thought that they were being robbed. So he had a gun, so he shot at the people that were breaking in their house, and they shot and ended up putting, I think, 8 bullets into Brianna while she was sleeping. This whole thing happened, in the middle of the night, and they had the complete wrong house. They were looking for, I don't know who they were looking for, what they were looking for, but the cops didn't have to answer for that. And that's what's insane about this, is that they go unpunished. That's a huge part of the Black Lives Matter movement, is hold these cops accountable. And by the way, we all win when the cops are less aggressive, more trained in de-escalation, and more accountable for when they fuck up. That brotherhood, that brother in arms bullshit needs to be completely dismantled before there's going to be any progress. And I think it's about to be. And I think that's feeding into some of this aggression that they aren't afraid to display in front of the entire fucking world.
What blows my mind is it was mandatory for them to start wearing GoPros, like, for a while. And I'm not saying
they don't
like
get in trouble for shutting them off when they shoot somebody, which happens all the fucking time. It's like, well, what's the point of that? Shouldn't they be in trouble for shutting them off, and then they shoot somebody? Doesn't that sound like a local gas station that saw some shit, but the cameras weren't running? Convenient shit. Allegedly. Who knows? Maybe they'll have. I don't want to call anybody a liar when I don't fucking know.
This is sort of some of the issue that I have with some of these departments and cities that are now saying, oh, well, we're going to make it illegal for the cops to do this and this. And it's like, well, wait, wasn't it already like shouldn't
Yeah, right.
wasn't
Shouldn't that have been on
Wait,
the docket a
what? Yeah,
while back?
that was legal before.
Like fucking
like-
your prisoners? Didn't that one just make
yeah,
its
so
rounds
it's like,
today?
well, just because you say that it's bad or illegal to do it, that doesn't give us any guarantees that they're not still going to do it. A lot of the shit that the cops do right now is illegal, but they still fucking do it. You know, and so it's like, well, just because you make it illegal doesn't mean that they're going to stop. So you have to fix that.
That's
the
why
issue.
a dismantling is in order, and I think it's going to, much like the government, it's not going to be enough to elect a couple of good ones. It's not going to be enough to get more proactive with your voting. It's going to need to be dismantled and rebuilt before there's any hope. And that's not saying that corruption won't come along then, but it's so deeply ingrained at this point that it's a lot like the government when you think about how to make things better. It is tough to know where to start. The difference is these guys practically have a license to kill. And, you know, the other night, the feed that I'm trying to get going on the Facebook here, that one that I was following, I think this is specific. So Seattle just put a moratorium on using gas within city limits. CS gas, which, by the way, was already illegal. Like, you're not supposed to use military grade weapons in.
What is CS gas? Like, what does that mean? Like,
It's just a certain type of tear gas made from a certain substance that's more caustic than the other kind of shit they're supposed to be using on.
It also
riots
dissipates.
or whatever.
It doesn't dissipate as quickly as some of the other ones. So what was happening? It was rising up into people's apartments. So people just minding their own biz, trying to be in bed for work the next day, were like choking on fucking tear gas. I was like, this is one of many things that's not right. And they can't just keep getting away with it. So the city put a moratorium on that for 30 days. But yeah, they still have everything else, you know, at their disposal. But the other night, they this one intersection that's in Capitol Hill, these cops and National Guard are protecting this precinct, which is understandable, seeing what happened down in the initial Minneapolis protests. What happened to some of those police stations? They're gone, son. Like, they're hollowed out. They're gone. So it's totally fair for them to set up shop there. But this is where people decided to focus their perimeter. Like, it's like they set up the line there. And for the most part, people stayed on their side of the fence and the cops stayed over there. Then they decided to do the curfew thing a few nights ago, and when people weren't dissipating, they decided to start shooting off the tear gas and shooting off all the shit, and then shit got out of hand. But eventually, by 3 or 4, everyone was gone. But then the next night, they were even more aggressive. Someone threw like a water bottle. You know, there's always some dipshit that's just like, threw a water bottle toward the cop. It didn't go anywhere near anybody. It bounced in front of him by 12 yards. A couple times that happened, and then that set the cops off, and tear gassing began all over again, and the bombs. The next few nights, the cops were not nearly so close to the perimeter. They backed off. They were more tolerant. They were like, chill. And guess what happened? Nothing. The protesters stood around until about 3 or 4 in the a.m., and most of them went home. And peaceful, you know, completely peaceably. Same thing with the next night, and same thing with last night. So tonight, I think will be interesting to keep an eye on. Now, I was thinking we were going live for a minute because I'm doing the video. So never mind that other part. But I'm going to keep checking in with this Brandon Frost feed because it has been really the hub of the Seattle protests. But yeah, lots of things to discuss. And then when we get through all of this, we will be looking at COVID-19, which it's so fascinating how nobody's even talking about it right now. Like, not at all. Like, it's just not a point of discussion anymore.
It's fucking scary.
Well, the one thing that I am hearing specifically about it is that Sweden are now admitting that, maybe we fucked up by not doing anything.
Oh, that's interesting because Sweden has been a counterpoint for discussion on either side. So the numbers there are looking good.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have handled it the way we did. We probably should have had some more precautions.
Yeah.
Enabled for
and
people right or not.
Well, we're going to find out some shit, man.
Or die and learn.
We are going to find out an awful lot about this COVID-19. I saw a post on Facebook before we got on tonight that COVID-19 took Chuck Norris. And I looked it up, and it was quickly debunked. But I was before I even was
Texas
able to,
Ranger?
before I could even prove that it wasn't real, I had a joke in my head. It's like, no, he's not dead. The virus is just now called Chuck Norris. That's all there is to it.
Man,
CN19.
I fell into a Twitter wormhole last night involving
Happens.
a possible political scandal, and I'd love to share it with you guys.
Sure.
Okay, do we all know who Lindsey Graham is?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Lindsey Graham, staunch Republican. He's in the news all the time. He kind of goes back and forth with Trump sometimes, but he's kind of a swarmy guy. I don't agree with him politically, but
Yeah, he's a senator.
I don't. Yeah, I just don't know about him, but I don't know his politics well enough to make judgment. But there is a story going around, and again, this might be gossip, and I hate to do that, but it looked really fucking interesting when I saw it. If you can Google it and read, like several websites have picked it up and started putting like the tweets up. But a gay porn star tweeted that there is a senator that's high up on the Republican side that basically fucks a bunch of male prostitutes in the DC area and makes them all sign NDAs.
Mm.
And
Allegedly.
And here's the deal. I would never want to even out anyone like that. If that was the case, I wouldn't be pushing the story. But if that's true, this guy has not been an ally to the LGBTQ community at all.
Well, there's plenty of those people. I mean,
I know, but it was just like, holy shit. And all these people started tweeting that were sex workers that kind of they were adding to the momentum of this rumor, basically.
Well, who was it that? So did they actually name him, or did somebody else put that together?
Somebody else, a website put it together based off of all the tweets and like everything. It's really, really obvious who they're talking about, but they won't say a name.
Gotcha. But
if you Google it, you'll read the story. And I was like, oof, if that's true, oof.
Mm. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if that were true? And he's like, fuck, the word's out. And he spent some time in his head. He's like, fuck it, I gotta be me. And he comes out like just full raging queen. He's like,
just like,
goodbye, GOP. It's time for me to be fierce. And he's just
got
like,
my wings now.
You know, there have been stories of that. I mean, not with like a top fucking senator, but you know, people that have been like so anti it because they were grappling with not wanting to be it, which is completely fucking understanding. Well, really in any case, but definitely with somebody from his generation and probably from where he grew up and how he grew up and obviously the politics that he went into. But when they set their souls free, it's like, bitch, I'm Elton John now.
Oh my God! And what if it turns him into like the person he was, like this good person?
Wouldn't that be fucking amazing? Now that would be. I think that would. Well, I don't know if it would make up for anything that he did to, stop the train along the way, but it would be pretty amazing. It'd be an amazing story to see that happen. It'd be like a good movie, like the. It comes out, but I love the idea of him not just coming out, but like coming out so fucking gay.
Just like coming out swinging.
Yeah. He's just like, you know what? Fuck it. I've never felt so free. And I'm going to do all the gay things. And I'm going to do gay harder than you could ever imagine, boy. I'm Lindsey goddamn Graham. He's already got a name that could go either way, right? Doesn't even have to change it if he goes. Not that has anything to do with sex changes, I suppose. But yeah, interesting. I suppose in the end we probably won't get our wish. We probably won't get Lindsey Graham as a flamboyant switch parties. You could do that, right? I think you can do that as a senator. Maybe not as you're a sitting senator. I know there are rules to switching parties. You can absolutely switch parties, but not necessarily. Like you can't get elected as a Republican and then just be like psych.
Yeah, boom. Yeah.
Not only am I not on your team, but I'm not on your team. But that would be amazing to see. Yeah. Anywho, watching this stuff live, it reminds me of I got it on like one of those 9-screen split screens. They're all over the place. Seattle, Ohio, Washington D.C. It kind of reminds me of that scene in the Guns N' Roses Welcome to the Jungle video where he's like in front of that whole bank of TVs and the whole world's going crazy. He's going crazy. He's like strapped to the chair. It's like, it's a lot to take in, but now that, like I said, most of the rioting and the violence seems to have cooled significantly, we're getting some good old-fashioned protests, and boy, is it fucking huge, man.
What is going to happen next is my question.
We don't even talk about murder hornets now. There's supposed to be a meteor that is flying by us super close tonight, I think, or last night. Maybe we already dodged it, but yeah, I'm afraid to ask what's next. Yeah, Lyle brought up the other day in the text Yellowstone. What's going on with Yellowstone?
Oh, it's just a lot of earthquakes going on simultaneously, like she's ready to pop.
Yeah, and then there's been earthquakes all along the western seaboard, like all along it, for basically the last couple of months. Something's brewing. Can you imagine if you're watching this live feed? You're like, wow, the world is really changing. All of a sudden, lava just comes fucking pouring down the street and turns them all into skeletons. It's like, holy shit, I don't know which thread to follow at this point. I don't even know which way the world is ending. Yeah. It does seem damn near apocalyptic right now. But, the term apocalypse has sort of been bastardized over these. There is like an ancient meaning to it where it's just a new beginning. You can't have a new beginning without the end of something. So by that definition, we are in apocalyptic times, because I do think that this is, I don't think this is going to be another one of those where we all go back to normal. Between the virus and this,
well,
if we're not living significantly,
we know it.
if we're not living significantly different in 2021, then we deserve to be wiped off the face of the earth with cataclysmic volcanoes. So maybe they're lining up to see how we react. If we keep trying to find a way to do the status quo, like it's all working for everybody, then maybe that's when the volcanoes will go off.
Not to be a sourpuss about it, but like if it goes down to martial law, especially in Washington D.C. right now, because it is kind of heading that way, where if any drop of the hat, it can go either way. A lot of people I've listened to the discussion many a time with a lot of different people, and they're like, well, the military is not going to do anything. You're going to shoot your own brothers and sisters. There are brainwashed military people that will shoot you. They'll do what they're told.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It's one of those things, like, you think that's not going to happen.
They're beating into them.
It really, they can. So it's scary. It's very scary, because as soon as that you cross that line, shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah, and it's so hard to trust anybody right now, no matter what gesture they're making, because where that old man was pushed, like just a couple nights before, there's that famous photo of the police all kneeling, and that made its rounds. Like, it was one of those guys. It was at that exact spot. Those same concrete balls that are, those sculptures are in view, like right where they left him. It's like, isn't that interesting to see this posturing and like, oh no, we're on your side. Peace. We want improvement. An old man, fuck you. Bye. Oh, he's bleeding out his ears. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the whole thing too is that you can't pull your mind with all the negative shit, because there's a lot of positive stuff with police officers out there that are in videos that I've seen.
Most of what you're seeing there we call propaganda.
Yeah,
sure, and you're getting the highlight reel or the low light reel, as it were.
It's important not to just look at all the negative stuff. There is a lot of positive going on with a lot of honest officers that want to change too.
That's why I recommend watching these live feeds, because you're seeing the whole thing. You're seeing, like, some of the best footage is just from people walking around with their iPhones, and tons of people are doing it. So if you search, you'll find some in your city, I'm sure. And I'm going to hopefully find some in Wenatchee here in a bit. I'm going to try to scan through it. But it's what's crazy is that it doesn't take long. In every feed I have watched, I'm not kidding you, in every feed, there has been some sort of overreaching of authority, overreaching of violence, or just straight up assault by the cops. Do you see that footage of, again, this goes back to the highlight reel, but of the cops shooting rubber bullets or those hard rounds into a car where there's a pregnant woman inside?
Yeah, the pepper rounds or whatever.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
the dude
Like,
who was
please.
driving was being, I don't know how
Yes.
the whole thing started, but he was, if I'm, like, he's antagonizing the cops. He's like yelling at them, but at the same time, he's like 50 yards off or something. So to be fair, you know, if I'm driving around with my pregnant wife, I ain't yelling at the cops in the middle of a very heated place, but
20 cops.
huh?
You're not going to stop and yell at 20 cops that are all on a single line that are, you know, directing traffic to
But
get you.
why?
out.
But why did he do that? Did he do that because they pulled him over?
Legitimately pissed off. No, somebody shot and
Yeah,
hit a
they
rubber.
they were shot at first, but his response to me was
Ooh.
puzzling. You just go, get the fuck out of there with your pregnant wife. No, I'm not dismissing the cops at all. I'm just saying. See, this is the other thing too. We sometimes want to stand on our principles, and we should be able to without getting our asses shot. But the truth is, right now we can't. We can't guarantee that we're not going to get our asses shot by stopping and saying, "What the fuck are you doing? There's a pregnant woman in here." You know, that should have led to, "Oh shit, well, our bad. Get in your car and go." Instead, it led to them shooting whatever bullets they were shooting into that car. It was breaking the windows.
Yeah.
It was shooting out the headlights. So if these are those rubber bullets, you know, those were made to be bounced off the ground, but they're shooting them into people. And a couple people have lost their vision because of it.
He got hit. He got hit 3 times, I think, in the chest.
Yeah.
And he fucking turned backwards because it probably stung like a motherfucker. And then he just.
Yeah. Are you seeing the pictures of these bruises of these people that are getting shot?
Snap of them now, but like, yeah, I've watched that video and it's pretty fucked up. I don't know if I
again
would stick
while
around.
the whole world is watching.
Yeah, I don't know if I would stick around, you know, because more than likely he was probably told to move, and they shot at his car, so he fucking got out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when it came down to whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I think I probably would have left. You know what I mean? Like, come on,
Yeah.
let's go.
But at the same time, who knows? You know, they might think you're trying to like speed away, or everything is so fucking tricky right now, and.
Well, and you don't know. I mean, as a cop, you don't know if that guy's got an AK-47 in his back seat of his car.
Right.
You know, so it's sketchy, man.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to some degree that there hasn't been some sort of organized assault against the cops. I mean, not because I think the Black Lives Matter movement is violent. I'm just saying that there's a lot of opportunities right here for the next tier of like straight up terror groups or extremists that will utilize movements like Black Lives Matter to get their shit accomplished, or just people that want to, you know, just anarchists, just mayhem starters, provocateurs, agent provocateurs, as they say. I'm surprised there hasn't been more of that. It's good. I mean, it's obviously a good thing, but you know. Let me see if I can find anything happening in Wenatchee right now. Live.
Is there?
It's because most people aren't the cops and they don't want to do violence.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, but it is a good reminder. And I always feel like this when I'm in like a stadium, 20,000 people watching a rowdy game or a rowdy concert and everyone's drunk. Yeah, a few fist fights break out and there's some nefarious people, you know, maybe they're grabbing an ass or moshing a little bit too violently. But overall, I'm always kind of blown away by how peaceful and orderly that kind of scenario can actually be. And now it's magnified by 10,000 right now in terms of numbers. And you got the anger factor and the pent-up factor of us just not being out of our houses in 3 months. Good gravy. And still, it's a mostly peaceful movement. I'm not seeing anything in Wenatchee just yet. I'm pretty sure that they started at 4. There's there's another post on Chuck Norris.
You think slimy, what am I thinking? Attorneys. You think that kind of has a thing to do with it too? Just for the fact of police, you know, as a police officer, you have to have there's shit tons of loopholes, and you get those snaky fucking attorneys. You know, maybe they've escalated it so much, they're so full of the shit that they're just like, fuck. You know, it's that anguish of not being able to do with their job.
Yeah, look, does anyone want to be a cop right now? Like, that's got to be a fucking nightmare. And no matter what kind of cop you would be, it's pretty hard to be a good cop right now because everything's so fucking crazy. But the thing is, and there are examples of this. You're not going to see it probably nearly as much as the bad examples, but there are examples of people like cops keeping themselves in check. Like there's that one, although I feel like this video.
The lady cop? Have you seen the cop one? The lady cop one? There was a white guy, and he was trying to lay down the law, you know, on the street. And there was a African American lady that was she was sitting down on the curb, and he did some fucking stupid shit. I think he fucking like pushed through her. Mm-hmm. And this African American lady cop fucking just let him have it. She had like kind of short hair and fucking chased him off the fucking scene, and then like it was superior. And fucking he stomped off like a fucking child.
I didn't see that one. I did see somebody with a knee on a neck, just like the one that started this whole thing, and his partner pulled him off, but I feel like that partner could have and should have pulled him off sooner. I felt like he kind of did it when the crowd started getting a little aggro, like, get your fucking knee. Like, they said it 3 times before he pulled him. But he did pull him off.
And also probably there was no reason for him to be restraining that guy in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very, very seldom would it be necessary to put a knee on a neck.
100%. It was a white guy, and he was laying there, he's already handcuffed, and he was screaming help.
I wonder how long these protests will go, because I don't know if you saw it, but they did bump up that main guy, Chauvin, whatever his name is, that had his knee on George's neck. They bumped his charge from 3rd-degree murder to 2nd degree. And that was the same day that they also charged the other 3 officers. So I don't know what they got charged with, or they at least arrested him. I don't know if they've had their proper charges filed yet or not. But that's pretty major, and it's hard to not feel like that was because of all of this. I know people are arguing about that, but just like that guy that got, I'm spacing his name.
It was 100% because of all of this.
Well, it's like those 2
100%
good old boys that shot that black guy that was jogging. They didn't get arrested until the video surfaced. And started making its rounds.
100%.
They arrested him because of public pressure. So this is an answer to the people that say that protesting doesn't do anything, or that this chaotic and this frenzied of a movement doesn't have its place in the history of time. I think and cities are now actually talking about defunding their police offices, their police stations, the police forces. That's new. That wouldn't be happening. So there's a lot that's going on.
Well, I mean, you take away the cops and the anarchy kind of exists. The thing with the cop thing, with that, even that degree of it's 30 years in prison, that's a death sentence to a cop. You go into the prison, you're pretty much might as well say goodbye.
Well, you know how we have these Good Samaritan laws where...
Unless they put you in YMCA prison.
The Good Samaritan laws say that if you stop to help somebody change their flat tire and they kill you, they get charged. That's like, I don't know if it's an aggravated murder. There's some extra charge. Whatever they're going to get, it's going to be harsher, because that we don't want a society where you can't offer to help somebody. So there needs to be a stiffer penalty for them. A cop is in sort of the ultimate position of supposedly being a good Samaritan to protect and defend and help and aid. And when they are caught fucking somebody up, it should be a stiffer penalty. And if part of that means getting your ass beat to death in prison, that's how it's got to be. I mean, you can't have that position and take advantage of it like that. I mean, be honest. You've seen some of this footage. Some of those motherfuckers deserve to get beat to death in prison. They just do. Not all of them. Not all crooked cops, and not all people that abuse their power necessarily. But some of these are blatant. Just fucking. I'm gonna kill you because I can. And I not only didn't go to jail, didn't lose my job. I had to take a few days with pay vacation. That's what most of these people get. So if that's the harsh punishment that has to happen for everyone else to say, oh, fuck, I don't want me some of that, a cop should be terrified to go to prison. And that should be just yet more incentive to be good. But they don't have that the way we do because they're protected in this brotherhood, this brothers in arms thing in a way that we aren't. So until that is, that disintegrates, they're not going to have that fear of prison hanging over them like they should, right? That should always be in the back of a cop's mind. Like, fuck, I better be on the goods. And so many of them aren't because they know they don't fucking have to. Got to stop.
Yeah, the restraint thing is kind of the issue. I've noticed a lot is that you see, even in riot police, they don't usually use cuffs. They'll use zip ties and stuff like that to subdue somebody. When you're down on your belly with your arms tied behind your back, you're not likely to get up very easily. You know what I mean? You're not going to pop right up. So like the whole knee to the neck thing is a little ridiculous and redundant, especially with cuffs. Yes, you can get up. You could probably pop up. It all depends on how athletic you are, but like it's not going to be easy. And you don't need to do that. You could use a foot on somebody's back, or I don't know. I've just seen
so much of this happens when they're already apprehended, and I think there's a little bit more leeway for something to go south when it's like in the heat of a pursuit and there's been a violent crime and there's an armed assailant, of course. But when somebody is in restraints or at least subdued and there's one of him and 4 or 6 of you, those are the cases that are really baffling, and they stack up. They stack up like the bodies are stacking up, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing.
You could watch it in these riot feeds.
Yeah.
You could literally watch it in these riot feeds. I've seen a dozen of them.
Yeah, they're still doing it. And macing. They're macing like crazy. You seen all this fucking videos, just dudes standing there holding up their iPhones, standing there. And it's the cops just walking by, shh, fuck you, and keep on going. Just fuck you because I can. That can't fucking happen. That guy should be in jail. Maybe not in prison, but he should be in fucking jail. That's assault.
At least an assault charge. That little girl in Seattle, dude, that made headline news. That cop should have got, assault charges on him. There's a paramedic that went to go help somebody that was down an alleyway. I can't remember if it was in New York or wherever, LA maybe, and she was maced in the face for just trying to help.
Yeah.
She's brandishing her CMT country card, her her paramedic card.
Yeah.
At the time she was maced, it was like, are you fucking for real?
Yeah, we need to stop harming people every time they move their fucking hand. It's because these guys are so jacked the fuck up with adrenaline and, there's a disconnect between their training and what they're doing. Oh, you'd hope that they're not being trained to just... It's almost like they're being trained to...
What's blatant?
Like, the cops are better and more important people. Like, that's what it feels like they're being trained. Like, all other life forms is a few clicks down from us, the police. That's why it's a priority when there's an officer down. That's why it's a priority to get to that body or that injured person than there is to get to your mama. Should that be the case? I don't think so. I don't think that they're better people. I don't think they're more important people because of their fucking job. We have built up this whole little mini society, and that's what systematic means. A systemic bullshit that has been prevalent for so fucking long. That feed, by the way, is working nicely on Brandon Frost's page. If you guys want to check it out, it's basically a quad view of that busy intersection. Now, the cops have retreated so far back that they're out of sight. They've clearly been watching these popular live streams. They know where the windows are to avoid. It's funny, last night they kind of showed all their cards because there's been like a couple of dozen, maybe even 50 or more cops and National Guard members standing their line. But when they decided to back down and appear a little less aggressive, they have been paring that down and paring it down. Last night, the cops were way back from the front line behind this little cement slab. And there was probably like 8 of them. It was crazy. But then one girl, dipshit girl, for fucking white girl, trying to do something. It was stupid. But she crossed the line and she went running up to the cops, just holding a sign. You know, it was clear that she wasn't, brandishing a weapon or anything, and she wasn't reaching. And they were fairly calm, but they approached her because she approached them, and they arrested her and took her away. But during that melee, all of the National Guard came running around the corners like, oh, there they are. Not that I thought that it was really just 8 cops holding the fort down, but I thought that's funny because they just showed all their cards, and now everyone knew that they were just right there in case anything happened. But I thought that was kind of sneaky. And for some reason last night, the cops and the guard looked a little flustered. Like they're kind of off their game, and it was a chaotic. They weren't communicating well with each other, so it was interesting to see.
It seems like things. Sorry, Lau, go ahead.
Well, it's been day 9. Most of these guys are probably like on 18-hour shifts.
I was just gonna ask.
They're moving them out pretty quick. Go ahead.
It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. What is it gonna take for this to, like, how does this end?
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I was asking, because
options?
I would have assumed that it would be mellowing out once those cops were arrested. I thought that it might have ramped down, but clearly not. And it's going to be way too long before you see them go to trial. So I don't know. I think something big is going to have to happen. I'm just hoping that this in and of itself doesn't lead to some crazy death or some other riot where a bunch of people die and feeding the flames, because I feel like it's shifted into a good movement right now.
I just don't want to see a tragedy, because that's what it kind of like it's gonna lead up to. It's like the sheep going up to the freaking cliffside, and there's one option: they're gonna go off that cliff, and we don't want to see that, because Big Daddy fucking Trump is gonna put his foot down. It's gonna be fucking loud. It's gonna be real loud.
Yeah, Trump.
I think it's gonna backfire though.
Somebody said.
I think the harder he puts the boot down, the more they get angry. It's like that's. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to like martial law, yeah, Lyle?
Martial law, yeah. It's when they bring the military in it's martial law. Everything's curfew. You go home. And that's it. And if they see you out, they're just going to arrest you and put it's a more highly aggressive than it already is.
Well, a lot of people have been talking about that, and it seems like he doesn't really have the authority to do that more than he already has.
What I foresee is basically having these huge crowds like that you have right now. And what's going to happen is that bomb's going to drop, and you're going to have a big initial impact right on that line, and it's going to cause a lot of fucking drama, a lot of trauma. Yeah. People running the fuck away, and people dying.
Yeah. Well, once we get all these people carrying guns, the open carry people involved,
and then
we'll see where that leads.
I don't really know about that. I think if the martial law comes down and there's this many people in a certain area, when it initially hits, it's like running from the bull, man. And it's gonna be tragic. There's gonna be a trample of people getting killed just by fleeing. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be senseless.
Well, one thing about this is it really illustrates how, in most of these situations, how desperately outnumbered the cops actually are. Yeah, they got all the toys and the bells and the whistles, but holy shit, even in this little crowd, and there's probably a couple thousand people here, but I would wager that there aren't more than 100 or 200 cops within that one block. If those people really charged, and a few of them had weapons, some shit could happen. But, most of these people would never do that, and So we just kind of remain mostly a peaceful.
My point is, what I'm saying is, like, if you're in the middle of a fucking Rage Against the Machine fucking concert in the 90s and you're smack dab in the middle of that, and then fucking all of a sudden it's a giant stampede. You know, yeah. Well, all of us have been in a concert where you're fucking elbow to elbow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you're trying to run for your life to get out of the exit, it's when people get hurt.
Yeah. Well, that kind of happened here in the same
the conditions
intersection.
are a little different, though.
It is, but I'm just saying.
You can scatter easier. That sort of happened here when the tear gas started raining. You know, people were tripping over each other, but they were helping each other up best they could until they got blasted with more tear gas. And that was all bullshit, too. It's like, you know, I think the police need to know when to fold them, son. It's like they're running away. They're tripping over trying to get away. And when someone stops to help them, the others get away. That's not time to double down on your tear gas. You know, let them get away. And they weren't doing that. They really fucked up that night, and I'm surprised that it didn't come back to bite them more than it did. But again, that's that arrogance and that confidence in we are so much more powerful than you are because we got the toys, and you guys don't got shit. And whatever you do, you're gonna go to jail for it. Probably not so with us. It's kind of hard to take, you know, it's kind of hard to accept the way things are. And, well, I guess that's the whole point of where we're at. But anyway, you guys got anything else you want to throw out? Any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, it's just the looting and all that stuff. That's the ugly side of it all. It's sad because it has to happen. You know, it's like, it really sucks, man. I watched there was a video of a guy that lost everything. You know, and he was black, and he was like my dad's age, crying, and he's walking with his son, you know, saying, "Why you got to do this? You know, I worked really hard. I got up in the show just like you." You know, that was fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's not fair, and it's especially heartbreaking knowing that they managed to survive 3 months of having to be shut down, which a lot of businesses haven't. And then, and then you got to deal with that. That's hard to take. But fortunately, I think that I feel like everything I'm watching, I don't see a lot of looting and burning like there was those first few nights.
Yeah,
I'm hopeful that is mostly a thing of the past.
My hope of that is if the police do back down, that ceases. There was another video I watched about a guy, and it was a white guy. He had a what I use for a sheet metal hammer. It's kind of, you could use it for like a mining hammer. It's got a square front to it, and it's got a tapered back.
Yeah.
He was on the side of the curb, and he's sitting there smacking out these chunks of rocks, and he's trying to pass them out. And
I saw that.
A lot of the protesters saw that, and they because the cops maced him. He was still going around. What he was doing is just trying to supply people with bricks to throw at people.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about these bricks, man.
Yeah, the protesters grabbed them, picked them up, and threw them to the cops. He basically turned them in.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome, and that's what you need. That's what you need both sides to be doing. Everyone needs to be throwing their shitheads, because we all have them on our camps. Everyone needs to be throwing their shitheads to the wolves. It's time for the Great Purge. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot to bring up the bricks. You guys been following the brick story?
With like somebody's handing out bricks to like incite violence.
In at least 4 cities, these pallets of bricks have just been appearing in places where there's no construction zones. They're provably new to the area. There's no pragmatic purpose for them to be there. So the conspiracy is, are these agent provocateurs that are just trying to cause chaos and provide the rioters with bricks? Is it the cops planning these things to try to get the rioters to give them a reason to shut them down sooner and harsher? Is it some sort of, rogue protester that's doing this? Is it some sort of government thing? Pick your poison. Doesn't really matter. All that we know is that these bricks are inexplicably popping up, and everyone has caught wise to it, so it hasn't really worked. So they're just like taking video of it, say, look, there's another mystery brick pallet. Some people actually think that it's some sort of, I guess, Banksy-esque anarchist street art, performance art. That's one theory. There's a bunch of them that just showed up on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Wow.
Just a pile of rocks and bricks just show up all of a sudden overnight. It's fascinating.
Crazy.
And then you got these there goes my ashtray. You've got these people that are doing the I don't know if any of these have panned out to be true, but there seems to be these people that are like cracking windows and just walking around, just that next level shit. But they're all like blacked out, and then they move on. Then people are like, "Hey, who the fuck are you? Why'd you do that?" They're gonna blame us. Like, it's usually white guys, all dressed in black, and some people thought, well, those are police issue boots, and those are police issue gloves, and that's a police issue mask, and we don't know you, and all of a sudden you just came into our neighborhood and start smashing shit up, and now you're moving along. So yeah, there's a lot of weird things happening, and a lot of sides that could benefit from making this movement look bad, making them look violent, and making them look silly. Like, there's a lot of people that want that. So it's hard to know who's doing what. There's also a lot of people that are just crazy, and they want it to be violent because they want the protesters to hurt the cops and destroy the businesses, anti-capitalism and shit. So you can't take that out of consideration.
Yeah, watch the city burn.
It's a fucking tornado. It's a damn nada up in here. And we got a military helicopter that's been creeping around town. That's happening in more and more towns. No one knows why. Fuck, man.
I mean, we're pretty lax back on everything, right? I only go to analysis. There's nothing going on here.
No,
right?
Not yet. I'm scanning the scanner and scanning Facebook, and I don't hear anything other than heart attacks and car accidents. But the night's young.
We'll have to get a chopper, John Mark, out of there. John Mark.
Yeah, I feel
chopper.
We now go live to John Mark and Chopper 1. He'd be eating. He'd be eating them, playing a video game. Looks all right.
Taking it back to the homeland.
Is someone doing dishes in the Chopper, John Mark?
Jawbone. Clickety clack clack.
Yeah. Anywho.
Well, hopefully it'll all simmer down and get back to normal. If normal's normal, get back to normal.
Yeah, if normal's normal. There's so many things to that too.
Yeah.
Still dealing with the pandemic. We could very well go back to a lockdown for the rest of the year. Although I don't think people are going to go along with it anymore. I think that cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that'll change. If there's, I mean, this whole thing where people keep comparing it to the flu, we're well past that stage now, because last I checked, the flu from last year to where we are now, I think had killed like a few hundred in Washington State. And now we're well over 1,000 now. So it's more than double what the flu has been doing, at least in Washington. I don't know what the national numbers are. But, so who knows? Maybe if more people start dying. But they've learned a lot about this virus. They've learned certain things that are fucking people up, like being too quick to go on ventilators. Seems to be fucking people up. Vitamin D and vitamin C deficiencies haven't been addressed quickly enough, and that could have helped fight these things off. There's a few more that I'm spacing, but there are things that we know about it now that we might be surviving it a bit more.
Yeah, I think the big shock and the big scare of everything was just having everybody sick at once, not having the facilities and the equipment to keep people alive. I think we've gone past that, enough where like the people that are going to get sick might, because it's that 10%, yeah. It's like the 10% people are going to get it, and the 1% of people are die from it.
Yeah,
it's 1% people that they could actually have enough resources, places, ventilators to keep them alive.
It's interesting. I don't know if you guys are watching this footage right now, but all of a sudden the cops,
I'm watching the walk or the wake or woke. Sorry, woke
have approached the line. And now they're more visible. Let me see if I can get audio on this. Of course, here come the boos.
Are we in
But
Seattle?
they're right up against the fence now. Yeah, go to that
Yeah, where are you?
Brandon Frost. Look up Brandon Frost. Here, let me just send you this.
There's a Ryan Billings who is in Seattle.
We don't see no ride here. Take off your ride gear. I like the musicality and rhythmic nature of that particular chant. All right, I'm going to send you this link over Messenger. Wow, maybe. Hello? Hello, Mr. Computer Messenger. Oh, let's see if this is an interesting call here.
Man.
Probably fire. Yeah, a lot of health issues today, but so far no. Do you guys have any desire to like go down and be a part of any of these?
I thought about it.
I'd like to go. I'd like to do it, but like I don't want to be around anybody. But I'd like to do actually photography and stuff about it too.
Oh yeah, there's some amazing opportunities for like revolutionary, and who knows, you might get one of those $1 million shots.
Yeah, but I also don't want to die.
Yeah, I feel pretty yucky being around people.
Yeah, God, I mean, look at this. Like it in front of the fence was 2 weeks ago. Behind the fence today. Oh, look, now he's backing out. I don't know if you're watching the Shane Wallen's post now, but now you can see up on the roof. He's pointing it to the roof. It's about 4 or 5 cops up there and a few National Guard guys with the bird's eye view.
Oh yeah.
People keep thinking they're snipers, but it's like they're not. You won't see the snipers. I'm not saying they're not up there, but you know, if shit hits the fan, they got a bird's eye view to radio in, and nothing's stopping them from shooting you from up there. But yeah, it's a cool neighborhood wherever this is. I'm pretty sure it's on 14th Street. Is one of those cross streets, 14th or 11th. But I don't recognize that. I don't recognize that big mural. I haven't been to Capitol Hill in forever. The last few times I've been to Seattle, which haven't been many in the last 5 years, I've pretty much gone just to Ballard and the U District.
No,
A friend of mine lives right up here where they're staging the stuff.
Oh, now it sounds like someone's getting ruffian downtown. Let's see what this is. I heard something about alcohol and yelling at each other. Although that could be a domestic issue. Yeah, this guy's feed keeps fuzzing out. Yeah, I'll be glued to this shit all night. Ooh, emergency traffic only. This is usually something. Let's give it a listen. That happened last night. And there was someone they were chasing who had a gun, and he ran into Colonial Vista, old folks' home. And from what I could gather, they lost him. They couldn't find him.
Wow. Give me all your insure.
Oh, cough all over you, you peckerwood.
You need to get in that wheelchair.
Now wheel me out of here.
Oh, that's some good coffee. All right.
Oh man, I drank so much coffee this morning. That shit does get you high. I'm smoking this Monte Cristo cigar. I have lit it 4 times and let it go out 4 times since we've been doing this. It's so fucking strong. I take like 8 puffs and you just high, son. I'm out of shape with smoking cigars.
I miss it.
Yeah.
I can't even. Even if I tried one, I bet you I'd go back to smoking the next day.
Well, it's such a different thing. It's such a different kind of nicotine. I don't recommend it, but
I can't.
It's such a different type of nicotine and buzz.
Yeah.
Cigarettes have all that other shit in it that makes them so fucking... Like, I crave a good cigar like you crave a good steak. You know, it's not fiending. Oh, let's see what this is.
Do you have an easier access over there? We just have a window right now that we can climb over, but we're trying to figure out another plan.
Well, the one thing I see,
I was trying to climb
the one
over a window.
thing I see a lot in common with a lot of these police officers is that they're all
Sorry,
pretty much.
radio's pretty scratchy.
Is that sorry? Go ahead. Say it again.
I said the one thing I see in common about all these officers on these feeds is that they're all out of shape. There's only like a
Yeah.
handful of people that are actually really in shape, and the rest of them are just like got the big old round donuts.
And some of them are incredibly out of shape. Like,
Yeah.
God bless you. We all like tasty foods, but what are you doing except pulling your gun on somebody if shit hits the fan? It's like you
I actually wanted
you
to
ain't
be a
running
cop.
nowhere.
Yeah, I wanted to be a cop out of high school to help, for the better good. But I smoked, and I knew I couldn't pass the physical.
No. But when we were younger, we could have, but not as you, not once you're in your late 20s.
That's-
That
You know what's
cigarette
weird?
shit takes hold of them lungs, son.
Well, ever since I had that surgery, it's put my dick in the dirt, and that's for sure. When
Yeah, imagine.
I was out working, 20-year-olds, at 44. I was working them fucking in circles around them.
Hmm.
And then once I had that surgery, I was having difficult problems trying to get back to normal. Even just like riding the load around on a mountain bike, I can't even do that. And
Yeah.
and my mom is like, well, it's because you're old. And I was like, fuck you. I was doing this a year ago. I gotta, it's not an excuse. But now I'm starting to come to the conclusion.
Yeah.
I'm getting 44 is pretty old.
Yeah, go easy on yourself. You're middle-aged. You survived cancer.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
time to
think
not
about it.
necessarily be Mr. Marathon, but yeah. I mean, I haven't gone through any of those things, and I'm in the same boat. I've been, because I don't want to go around the loop trail. Oh, hang on. They're trying to get into a house through a window. Somebody's up to no good in there, but that doesn't sound too interesting. But I ordered one of those resistance trainers that you hook up to your regular bike. Basically turns your regular bike into an exercise bike.
Oh,
To
nice.
start working back into getting in shape to when, because I can't imagine going around the loop trail and just yeah, I feel like I'd still be breathing somebody's jogging air or biking air if I passed them or them going the other. I don't know. It just didn't appeal to me, and my carpal tunnel has made it too painful to mountain bike like I used to. So going out on a trail isn't really an option. But I really miss being on that bike. So I bought one of those trainers, and it's fucking great. It's kind of loud, so you gotta crank the tunes. But I would do that anyway. The first day I got on it, I was like on it for 15 minutes. I was like, fuck. And I just went on that was like last week, and I just did 40 minutes without barely breaking a sweat. So now it's time to start dialing in the resistance.
It's pretty easy to do too. If you got something to watch on TV or like this, you can just be on watching the feeds while you're pedaling around.
Dude, if you get on that, if you exercise during one Joe Rogan podcast, you're burning like 8,000 calories a day.
100%. When I went to the gym, that's what I used to do. Is I used to do at least an hour on the sit-down bike,
Mhm.
and then not back to back, but like then the next day I might do like an hour on the treadmill, where I'd speed walk and then run for like the last 10 seconds out of every 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
You're running for like 15 minutes within an hour,
Mhm.
and then literally lifting weights for an hour. So it was like usually a 2-hour trip to the gym, but like that gone, it's just like fuck, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to get me some dinner.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. If something interesting happens later tonight, I'll reach out to you guys, see if maybe you want to hop on and live, not live stream it, but capture it live and see if anything goes anywhere. But other than that, I shall be monitoring from up here in the original radar station. Good chatting, guys. Be safe. Continue to wash your hands and wear a mask, and we'll see what happens.
When do you want to do the next week's episode?
We need to do our movie one. We'll chat. We'll chat on text. We'll figure it out.
Well, that and the doc. I watched that.
Yeah,
doc.
I think we can make that a twofer. I think that makes sense to do a twofer. We'll plug that. So we're going to be doing... Yeah, well, the next episode will be our Hollywood wrap-up I can't remember what we call it. We change it every week, so it doesn't really matter. But we did watch Swiss
Oh, that
Army
movie.
Man, and it was great.
Good.
So we'll wrap up our thoughts on that. We also watched the Jeffrey Epstein documentary. Fucking fascinating. Doesn't cover nearly as many things as I hoped, but I'm dying to talk to you guys about that. So if you guys want to listen along on that, watch that. Watch it before then. You can marathon it all in one setting easily. It's just a few hours. Anywho, we'll be talking about that soon. We'll figure that out.
Right on, right on.
All right, guys.
Cool, guys.
We will
See
talk
ya. Be safe.
soon. Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Remembering how things went when I dealt with a 12-year-old who was trying to steal my hat. Maybe I'm not so tough on them there streets.
Stay down, old man.